Well, good morning.
Good morning.
Happy spring, I think. Thank you all for being here today for a really exciting announcement. And I'd like to welcome all of you, but particularly I'd like to welcome some fellow colleagues in government, elected officials, and activists who are here today. First, Secretary Davey, welcome to Somerville. He's dressed for spring. Let's give him a round of applause here. The General Manager of the MBTA, Dr. Bev Scott. Governor Patrick could not be here, but he's here, believe me. And let me welcome some of my other colleagues. State Senator Pat Jehlen. Representing Congressman Capuano, who's in Washington doing some important work. John Lenachek, his Chief of Staff. From the Somerville Board of Aldermen, Alderman at Large Jack Connolly. Ward 5 Alderman, Mr. Mark Niedergang. I also want to welcome from MassDOT, and he's worked closely, I'll tell you, with me for more than a decade in the MPO level, integral to all the projects we're doing in the city, David Mohler. From the Chamber of Commerce, and really active in everything we do in the community, representing Somerville and 100 cities and towns in the greater Boston region MPO, Mr. Tom Bennett. I want to thank and welcome the Friends of the Community Path, and we'll hear from Lynn Weissman pretty soon. I want to welcome former Alderman and local activist and walk and bike advocate Courtney O'Keefe. From the Somerville Transportation Equity Partnership, Ellen Reisner, and all our activists. Thank you, Ellen. Representing the GLX team, I see Mary Ainsley here, the Green Line Extension team. Yes, very important. And from our Office of Strategic Planning and Community Development, we have our Executive Director, Mike Glavin, Hayes Morrison, the Director of Infrastructure and Open Space, Ann Franzen, and Sarah Spicer. Let's give them a round of applause. And again, I do want to recognize all the neighbors and residents of this community and activists, especially Lynn Weissman and the Friends of the Community Path. And without their help and really dogged, persistent, tenacious advocacy, really the DNA of this city, the work you're going to hear about and you see behind us will not be happening today. So thank you for what you do and for what you argue for and fight for, really the hopes and dreams of this community. Without further ado, let me first introduce, he's not only a friend and partner to Somerville. I'll tell you, I work with many agency heads at the state and federal level. This individual is the best. Next to you, Dr. Scott. But he's your boss. He is responsive. He is active. Governor Patrick gets what we're doing here. He's talked about it from day one coming to office. This individual gets it. The Green Line Extension would not be happening without our partners, especially this person here. And what we're going to hear about today would not be occurring without him and the governor and Dr. Scott. Please welcome the Secretary of MassDOT, Mr. Rich Davey.
I have no notes because I only have one thing to say. On behalf of Governor Patrick, we are not designing the community path. We are going to build the community path. So the first thing we have to do, Mary, is take that sign down that says road closed ahead. It should say road open soon. A few people I want to thank. First, the governor, who was supposed to be here today but could not, got called away to other business. This is exactly the kind of stuff that he wants us to be doing at MassDOT, which is not only improving and lifting communities, as the doctor says often, but making sure that we're providing multimodalism across the Commonwealth. The Green Line Extension has been talked about for decades. And decades and decades. Who's the oldest person here? Can you confirm that?
I can do
that. You admitted that. It was a trick question, you know.
Very happily doing that.
And we're so pleased to be finally moving it from a concept to reality. So I do want to thank Mary Ainsley and the Green Line Extension team. I know you have she's probably been spending more time in the community than with her own family. I think in part because she sees you as part of her family. So thank you, Mary. Well done. To Congressman Capuano, who, as you all know, is a wilting flower. He's a very quiet guy. He doesn't say very much. But the very first time I met him, when I got into government 4 years ago, he yelled at me about a few things. But one was, you better get that Green Line extension done, and the Community Path for that matter. And we're pleased that John's here to represent him today. He had some votes in Washington. I talked to him last week. He couldn't be here, but he was thrilled. You have, and don't tell Mayor Walsh, who's my mayor, but I think you have the best mayor in the Commonwealth, Joe Curtatone. The guy... And I say that because not only does he care about Somerville, but he was with us last year fighting for transportation across the Commonwealth. And frankly, if we had more leaders like that, thinking beyond their boundaries, I think we would be better off as a Commonwealth. So Joe, thank you for being a great partner. And finally, well, I should say, to Senator Jehlen and to the legislators who represent you all, who continue to remind me, as I think even last week we were in a public meeting or a private meeting talking about the MBTA, continuing to fight for the Green Line extension. Thank you, and thank you for providing us the funds in the Transportation Bond Bill 10 days ago to actually make this happen. So, well done. And so, lastly, to Lynn, who took me out on a walking tour 3.5 years ago. Yeah, it was in December. If you took me out in April, we would have got this done a lot sooner. December is so cold. Yes, and I am wearing spring. I'm trying to bring spring into my life. That's why I'm wearing some pink today. But what I have to say is this, and I've said this often to folks as I go around the state. If you think that your activism didn't make a difference, you are wrong. The reason why government moves and shakes is because people care, and they call, and they write, and they cajole, and they take secretaries on walking tours in December. Well, I think I had a cup of coffee, and I appreciated that. It happens because you are active. And there are so many things else going around this Commonwealth that are places where we think it's going to happen, and we're not sure. I'm told we have an election coming up in November, and all the things that you care about and we care about are going to continue because you continue to fight for them. And that is the honest to God's truth. I couldn't be more pleased to be here today, and I look forward to coming as a citizen in a couple of years and seeing this community path done and using it as well. Congratulations.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Next, I'm going to call up Dr. Scott. I'll tell you that it's been more than 40 years in the community path. And if I ask people, what do you think the biggest challenge to getting this stuff done is? A lot of people will say, well, it's the money. It really isn't. It was the bureaucracy and the lack of understanding and recognize the value of what we as a community help guides us every day. We want to build walkable, bikeable communities. And we think there's not only a social and environmental and equity involvement, but there's an economic impact to that too. And it is integral to the type of community and region we should be building. When Lowell Patrick was running for governor and we were supporting him as a community, we made it very loud and clear, hey, the Green Line, Community Path, and he knew it, right? He recognized it right from the beginning. Secretary Davey got it, so did Dr. Scott. Many times, people in bureaucracy and elected office will do what is minimally required. Well, the SIP said this, the Community Path wasn't part of it, we don't need to do that. That has not been the case with Lowell Patrick, Rich Davey, and Dr. Scott. They not only saw the value of it, why it was important, not just the Somerville, the region and the Commonwealth, they've been fighting for it. I was with Secretary Davey and Dr. Scott and Congressman with the Federal Transportation Secretary Anthony Fox the other day in Union Square talking about the Green Line and this project. And Dr. Scott led that conversation. She not only believes in what we're doing, she's fighting for it to make sure it happens. So please welcome another great friend of Somerville, Dr. Bev Scott.
Mayor, thank you so much. Well, I feel like I came in on the anchor leg, okay, but honestly, and I did. I came in on the anchor leg, but you know what you got to do on the anchor leg? You got to get it on over the finish line. So that's exactly what we're going to wind up doing. So what I can tell you is that it's very exciting. I'm the one that wore the winter stuff today. It's very, very exciting. It always is about people and it's about communities and honestly, the transformative impact that transportation winds up having for communities. And that's what it's all about. And these whenever it works, it always works because of the people. There's nothing that I can say. A lot of times folks will say, oh, I'm just we can't make a difference. I said, your vision, your tenacity, your stick to, and this is what we believe in. And I tell you the honest to God's truth, it's all those little footsteps. It's all of that believing in yourselves. And I tell you the honest to God's truth, I am so proud to be a part of this administration, to be a part of this team, and to be a part of this project and you. And let me tell you, you got a mayor. He don't mind calling. Okay, you know what I'm saying? And he said, now look, Scott, I want you to put where your mouth is. Okay, you know what I'm saying? I told him, I said, Mayor, I tell you, we're going to get that thing signed on that community path. I swear to you. Okay, you know what I'm saying? And so honestly, no, but it is. It's partnerships. And I am so, so proud. And there's a lot of other just great stuff in terms of working with folks on the ground here in terms of trying to really bring employment as well as job opportunities to people within the community for this project. So thank you very much for letting me honestly be a part of your family. Thank you.
Zackary, come on up here. Come here. Stand over here. These are if they're the two greatest proponents of biking in Somerville, these two young men. I will tell you, not only extremely handsome and, I'll tell you, incredible athletes, because they play with my kids on soccer and baseball, but I see them and Lynn and Joel biking all around the city, a constant reminder. Biking everywhere throughout the year. Constant reminder why we should be doing what we're doing. The extension of Somerville's Community Path is a major step toward achieving that goal. Funding this project says, again, the administration gets it, we get it as a state and a region, as a community. This is about far more than sustainable transit. What's driving the trend back to the urban core is also a desire for community, which is at the heart of what makes Somerville the city we all love. People today demand neighborhoods where they can walk or bike to public transit, work, stores and services. Families want options for getting to work that don't include sitting in traffic and want to live where it's easy for their children to lead very active lifestyles. Young professionals crave walking routes and bike lanes along with access to public transit. Retirees, they want to walk to a neighborhood store and the local coffee shop. Ultimately, all of these groups and us want to live in the kind of vibrant, close-knit communities that are created when, faces aren't blurs seen through car windows, but people out on sidewalks and in streets and paths, walking, pushing their strollers and biking. Somerville, we're working to meet that demand by making it easier, safer, and more appealing to bike and walk. We have doubled, Mr. Secretary, our bike network, which now has more than 30 miles of bike lanes in the most densely populated city, 4.1 square miles in New England. And we've added more than 300 new bike parking spots, not car parking spots, but bike parking spots on city streets since 2011. 2 years ago, we joined Boston, Brooklyn. I don't know, that's good, we'll do more. 2 years ago, we joined our partners in Boston, Brookline, and Cambridge to be part of the Hubway bike share system with 12 stations in Somerville, which garner thousands of rides monthly. Our Safe Start initiative defines clearer, better routes from neighborhood to neighborhood and city square to city square. And that includes, improved signage and crosswalks, more pedestrian countdown displays, intersection bump outs, and so forth that make it easier to get around to where we want to go, connect people to one another, to goods and services. Meeting today's demand for walkable, bikeable communities cannot be incumbent on a single city, though, unfortunately, Somerville is not alone. MassDOT's rehabilitation of the Longfellow Bridge between Boston and Cambridge will make this heavily trafficked commuter route better and safer for bicyclists and pedestrians. Also, MassDOT's plans for Cambridge Street Bridge in Alston now include a cycle track with dedicated bike lanes and barriers separating them from car lanes. Elsewhere in the metro region, now this is great stuff. Also in the metro region, right here, 4.1 mile stretch of the Northern Strand Community Trail has been paved from Malden to Everett. And Metro West communities are getting closer to turning a 23-mile abandoned rail line into a bike and walk path that could reach the Waverly Commuter Rail Station in Belmont. Both of these rail-to-trail initiatives, led by this administration, could connect to this very path, bringing our region closer to a true seamless bike and walking network throughout Greater Boston and beyond. We're seeing the effects of these investments right here. In Somerville, biking has risen by 56%. 56% over 2 years. Biking and walking to work continues to increase according to the Alliance for Biking and Walking's biannual report released this month, and most noticeably, it's increasing in cities. Boston has the highest share of walking communities. Meanwhile, the long-term trend for bicycling and pedestrian fatalities is downward. We're seeing that data here, and biking is safer in larger cities where roads are evolving to accommodate all forms of travel. Now, we are seizing this opportunity because developing our pedestrian and bike infrastructure, along with building near transit, can eliminate traffic impacts, especially in one of the most congested regions in the country. Over time, it shifts more commuters from roads onto our sidewalks, subways, and bike routes. That helps us achieve environmental justice the residents of our region deserve. And a recent study, you should know, by the University of Minnesota found that non-white people inhale 38% higher levels of air pollution than whites. Think about that. Think about how Somerville relates to that. Greater Boston has the fourth highest pollution disparity between whites and non-whites. We know that statistic. I see Rick Zamo here, the work we're doing with the cafe study along I-93. I'm in that statistic of respiratory illnesses. My playground was McGrath Highway when I lived on Prospect Hill. That's important. That really is important to Somerville. We're approximately 38,000 of our residents live within environmental justice zones, shouldering a disproportionate burden of environmental impacts caused by traffic and industry. Building routes for bikes and pedestrians also brings community because it builds the vibrancy that comes when increased foot traffic helps the stores, the restaurants, the cafes, and services in our neighborhoods flourish. And we know from data, this is why we're building cycle tracks on Beacon Street, increasing bike and walk capacity, why it's important to raise that bike and walk score. The Brookings Institute research shows the higher that bike and walk score, the better it is for your local economy. During the deepest abyss of this great recession, Somerville came out strong because we were making those investments. Local, independently run, operated businesses thrive when that bike and walk score goes through the roof. And when our businesses flourish, our squares and nearby parks are filled with our neighbors. Making our region walkable, bikeable, and transit-oriented creates urban rooms, active streetscapes supported by workers during the day and residents during the night. And this isn't just about biking and walking. This is about the kind of communities and region we want to build. We want to build communities that are equitable, connected, healthy, and convenient for residents. We want places where you bump into friends on street corner, chat with other parents at the neighborhood park, or wave to your barber when you walk by his shop. Even you, John. I know you go by the barber shop. Economic health then follows suit. Thriving squares filled with busy businesses creates a resilient, self-sufficient economic base for cities and for the region. And when we make connections that move pedestrians and cyclists between neighborhoods, we create the growth and vitality that will help us bring back historic neighborhoods such as Brick Bottom and the Inner Belt. Secretary Davey, General Manager Scott, and to the Governor, David and your team, everyone, Mary, thank you for investing in building community here in Somerville and across the Commonwealth. And I again want to also salute the Board of Aldermen standing side by side with us to make this happen. Our state legislature for the work that they do many times is unheralded for the advocacy for transportation investment. Let's make Somerville the most bikeable and walkable city in the country. But let's make this the most bikeable and walkable region in the world. Thank you very much for being here today. Hold on. Now, more importantly, to cap off today's ceremony, please welcome, representing the Friends of the Path, Lynn Weissman.
So thanks everyone for coming out in the rain. As you know, I represent the Friends of the Community Path, and I was thinking about this project today, and one of the things, a goal is a dream with a timeline and a plan. So our dream is to build the community path all the way from here to Lechmere, and now we have a full timeline with the Green Line timeline, and we have a plan, a design. People have been thanking people. People really do thank people for a reason. Nothing happens because of, one person or one group. Alan Moore, who's the co-leader of the Friends of the Community Path, couldn't be here today. He had to work in New York. He was very bummed that he couldn't come. But he asked me, to say, that the Community Path is finally going to happen because of all the ardent supporters in the community, and the hard work and the vision of the state, the city, MassDOT, the MPO, and the Green Line engineering team. Those in the State House, those are elected and hired officials, and all of our many ally groups. And especially because the path is simply an unbelievably great idea. It'll be the best and the most used urban path in the United States. So, Alan is right. The Community Path is a regional project. It will make for almost, 50 continuous miles of path network connecting 11 Boston metro area cities and towns, and even more with some of the new paths that are sprouting up. And the Community Path will generate millions of trips each year for people of all ages and all abilities. There's so many people to thank. I can't name them all. We definitely, we worked a lot with the Green Line design team, and we were actually, listened to, and our ideas were valued, and the team even improved on, went so far as to improve on ideas, went the extra mile. I won't name names, Mary or Karen, but I was sometimes told, I was occasionally told that this is a Community Path project. It's not a Green Line project, because so many people in the community came to the meetings and wrote letters and said, we want the path. So, as I said, there are so many people who made this happen. I just would like our Friends of the Community Path Action Team people who are here, people come to meetings and do stuff, to raise their hands. Come talk to them if you have some questions too. My kids have stickers. If you need stickers and a sign-up sheet for the Friends of the Community Path, if you want to sign up for information. I also have to thank our families for putting up with us, going, being out a lot, doing this stuff. I like to say that we used to have people over for dinner. Now we just have meetings, and that's pretty much what it's like. Joel Bennett, who is my partner in Crime Kids in the Community Path, is standing back there. The Friends of the Community Path is Joel's brainchild, this group. The idea of the Community Path preceded him, but he was the one who formed the group, and I co-founded it with him, but it was his idea. All we have to do now to reach our goal, our dream, to get the Community Path built, is, as the baton gets passed over time, to ensure that the Green Line is built in full, and the Community Path is part of that. So, our work is not done, but we are planning a party. Date to be announced to celebrate this announcement. We hope people can come. Thank you so much for championing our dream to Lechmere and beyond.
Great job, Lynn. Zackary, Joel, all the Friends of the Path, thank you. Again, thank you all, everyone here, for your work and advocacy. John, please thank Congressman Capuano for his dogged advocacy for transportation investment and the fight he puts up for all of us in Washington, and to Governor Patrick, Rich Davey, Bev Scott, and all of us. We should all be proud. Lynn's right. I was often told when, we were building the Orange Line, we started building the Orange Line station in Assembly Square, and we were talking to a company thinking about Assembly, we're in the ground, we're building this, and we'll believe it when we see it. Well, you can believe this is going to happen. but let's make sure we see it happen all the way through. So it's another important, critical step in the process, and I look forward to walking this path, or riding this path, with all of you someday. Thank you very much. Please welcome Senator Jehlen.
Well, I did want to say one thing. First, I want to just tell you that my colleagues in the House are in there voting on the budget today. That's why they're not here. And I did want to disagree with the mayor.
Good to see you. Thank you very much.
Because money is a consideration in everything that gets built. And next fall, we have an opportunity to make sure we have less money for transportation. And that's if people vote to rescind the escalator clause, the inflation clause in the transportation, in the gas tax. If we don't have that money, things like this will stop. So we need your advocacy not just for projects, but for the money to pay for them. So to the extent that I'm disagreeing with the mayor, I'm elaborating on the mayor's remarks.
We still need money.